Hello, and welcome to the MyHeritage webinar series. I'm Jeff Rasmussen, your host, broadcasting to you live from Middleton, Idaho. Today we will learn from Jana Helstein on the topic of Deepstory, your visual storytelling tool. A syllabus for the class is available on the webinar's registration page, and I'll put that link in your chat here in just a bit. Jana Helstein's journey into genealogy started over 20 years ago, prompted by an innocent question from her then toddler about people in the family. This journey took a turn into genetic genealogy over 7 years ago, discovering her ex-partner's biological parents and uniting him with a family he never knew. So all beginnings were close to heart. She is the founder of DNA at Eye Level, and besides helping others in their search for biofamily, she helps the Hebrew-speaking community across the world of DNA through teaching, counseling, and public speaking. She believes everyone deserves to know their truth and have the tools to do it at hand. Please put together your virtual hands and let's give Jana Helstein a nice warm webinar welcome. Jana, how are you? And welcome to the show.
Well, I'm very well, thank you. Very excited and very keen on getting started.
Well, good. Jana, the screen looks good, so the time's all yours.
Brilliant. Okay, so hello everyone. It's a real pleasure to be here, and thank you for having me, and thank you for sharing this time with me. And you know what? My passion is this tool that I'm going to share with you. But before we dive into the technical part of Deepstory, I want to share with you how it all started for me. And why? Because you know how people usually say, well, there's a will, there's a way. Well, I believe that when there's a why, there's a way. Because I believe that when we understand what we do and why we do it, we can choose the what and the how for the best outcome. And for me, Deepstory, the why, I think it's kind of clear because through stories, we connect to other people. And through stories, families unite. And they are unique to each family. And I look at it as the torch that is being passed on from generation to generation. And for me, it all started with this little fella. His name is Lee, and he's my eldest. And he's now a 27-year-old big fella. But when he was 18 months old, we relocated to New Jersey for 2 years. And unfortunately, my family didn't have the money to come over and visit. So imagine that for 2 whole years, Lee did not meet anyone from my family. When I returned, my mom had a huge welcome dinner for us, and everybody came, probably more for him than for me, but I'm not taking it personally. And at some point, Lee came up to me and pointed to a person in the room and very innocently asked, "Mommy, who's that?" And when I followed his finger to see who he was pointing at, I felt this unexplainable stab in my gut because he was pointing at my brother. Now, I don't know what started you on your genealogy journey, but for me, that was my wake-up call. That was the moment I decided that not only would he know every person in the room, but he would get to know the whole tribe. But before that, I needed to know the whole tribe. Because a family tree is beyond the number of people on it. It's the stories those people tell us, the stories they tell us about themselves, about their lives, their hardships, their triumphs. You know, there's a country song by Blake Shelton that's called "The More I Drink, the More I Drink." And that's what happened with me, with genealogy, because the more I learned, the more I wanted to know. And I felt that I found a piece of me in each story that I uncovered, as if I was completing the puzzle that is me. Now, do you remember how excited you were when you found photos and documents of your family? Well, I was blown away by what I found about my family. And of course, the first thing I did was contact my family and to tell them all about these exciting things that I found. But they did not share my enthusiasm. And very soon, and for the longest time, I was referred to as the one who talks to the dead. I don't know, it might sound familiar to some of you, but a major shift took place in 2016. In 2016, I found my father's maternal family in Boston. Now, Dad's mom died in Latvia when he was only 3 weeks old. And I won't go into the whole saga of his story, but his dad, my grandfather, never shared any information about her. Now, I got to give a big shout out to the Latvian archives and to MyHeritage for what turned to be a life-changing event. Dad was 69 years old when I found his family. And he was at an age where he already made peace with the fact that his maternal side would always remain a mystery. And indeed, at the tender age of 69, uniting him with his maternal family was a life-changing event for him. And a year later, he celebrated his 70th birthday, and his family came to Israel to celebrate with us. And that's where I could see that the impact that had on my family, because all of a sudden, people realized what I was doing, and they started asking questions, and they started requesting an invite to the family tree. But I also noticed that the younger generation, while happy to connect with new living relatives, was still kind of indifferent when it came to family history, because that consists mostly of dead people. And with all the respect to the older generation, I really hoped for more enthusiasm from the younger ones, because after all, they are the ones that we are relying on to take the family stories and family legacy into the future. Because think about us. We are excited by archives and documents and censuses, and crumbling photos give us goosebumps. But that does not cut it for the younger ones. For them, and I say it with great pain, it's boring, because their world is dominated by artificial intelligence. I needed to find a platform that speaks to them. And my big break came last year, because last November, my family celebrated 50 years in Israel, 50 years since we came from Riga in Latvia, which is one of the Baltic countries. Now, coming to Israel was the lifelong dream of my grandparents, and I was planning a big event. And the guests? 3 generations, my grandparents' descendants. And I wanted to share my grandparents' story, the story of our family. And since my grandparents are no longer with us, I was looking for a way where they can be part of the celebration. Oh, and that's when I realized what an amazing tool Deepstory is. Because with Deepstory, my grandparents can be with us, and they can talk to their grandchildren and great-grandchildren that never even met them. So how is it all possible? How does MyHeritage use AI technology to do that? Well, first things first, some important settings that we need to be aware of, and we're diving in. Well, first thing, you need to have an account on MyHeritage, and you can start one for free. And you need a tree on MyHeritage. And if you don't have one, you can easily upload one. You just go to Family Tree and import a JETCOM, which is a file that you can download from any other site where you have your family tree on, or a tree building software. Once you have that, the next thing that is crucial, you need to make sure that the site is set to the language that you're making your deep story, you're making your ancestors speak. And that can easily be changed. If you look at the top bar, you have English right now, but if you want to change it to any other language, you just click on that, and you have so many languages to choose from, because MyHeritage supports 42 different languages, plenty to choose from. And that means that if your ancestor spoke a language other than English, you can make a video of that ancestor in his mother tongue. One small caveat here, English has the most vocal choices. It has different accents, various characters, and other languages just have male and female. So, but you'll see I have a tip for you of how you can adjust to make that work. And what can you do if you speak another language, but you can't read or write in that language? Like for me, I speak Russian, but I can't read or write in Russian. So I promise you, by the end of it, I'll show you how I worked around that. So there are two ways where you can use Deepstory. There's the automated way and the tailor-made way. And we'll see which is which and how to use each of them. So for the automated option, you need to make sure of three things. First one, of course, is have a tree on MyHeritage. And like I said, you can upload, but if you feel, so if you want to, you can just build a tree from scratch. The second thing you need to make sure is that the ancestor, the one you're making the deep story about, has a profile on the tree, and it's advised to make that profile rich with details and dates, and have a whole lifetime that is presented in his profile. The third thing is, as the site manager, you need to be associated with the tree that your ancestor is on, because you can manage more than one tree on MyHeritage, but you can only be associated with one tree at a time. So just make sure that you and your ancestor are on the same tree. And I won't go into the technical explanation of how to make sure of that, but you have all that explanations at the handout that you have with this webinar. So everything, including screenshots, is explained there. So for the automated version, all you need to do is go to Photos, and then go down to Deepstory. Now, please allow me to have one moment to draw your attention to the various photo tools that MyHeritage has. And if you haven't tried them so far, I do encourage you to do so. And you will be amazed how good they are and the amazing transformation that your photos can undergo. And if you have a document that is saved as a photo, I recommend that you try the tool or the enhancer tool on those, because it happened to me with one of the documents that I had. And once I enhanced it, the writing became clearer, and I could actually see more information that I saw before the enhancement. So you just try that and see what happens. And just one more minute, to mention the AI time machine. I went crazy with that. And I have to tell you, this is highly addictive if you haven't tried it so far. I think I have about 400 photos because I think I tried every possible category. Just to give you a glimpse, I went from ancient Greece to be an Aztec warrior. I hopped over to the 50s, and I even peeked into the 18th century. It's exciting, and yes, I can see I'm getting carried away. So we'll go back to Deepstory, but I encourage you to try that. It's crazy. So once you have your tree and you go to Deep Stories, you'll see that MyHeritage has already populated this page with ancestors, and you will be suggested to choose an ancestor from that. And all you have to do now is choose the ancestor that you want. And you click on Create Deep Story. And that's it. Really, it's that simple. Now, bear in mind that all the photos that you see with the suggested ancestors are the ones that you used for your profile for that ancestor. So you won't be expecting to see anything else there. And that's it. You click on Create Deep Story, and the automated version is doing all the work for you. Now, two things that I wanted to make sure you understand here is sometimes we use a photo that has more than one person on it. But for the profile, we just enlarge the space where the ancestor is, but the original has more than one person. And so, of course, the AI tool detects that, and it asks you to choose the ancestor out of the whole photo, choose the ancestor that you want to make the deep story about. The other thing is, sometimes we use a gravestone or a document as a profile photo. And of course, that is also detected, and it'll tell you no face is detected. I'm telling you, this AI tool is pretty smart. So you won't be able to use the gravestone or the document if you used one for the profile photo as the photo for your deep story. And that's it. MyHeritage goes to work for you. Now you can do several things. You can just stare at the screen and wait for it to be over. Or you can go on with your research, have a cup of coffee, run a few errands, and because it's working there for you. You don't need to do anything else. And MyHeritage, if you went on your way, MyHeritage will send you an email to the address that you use to register to MyHeritage site, of course, and it'll tell you when your story is ready. And this is what it looks like. It'll tell you, hello, we are very excited. You'll be very excited. And all you need to do is click on the orange button that says Watch Deep Story. It's that simple. So you click on that, and this is the screen that you'll get to. By the way, if you found yourself stuck watching the screen, this is the exact screen that you will see by the end of when MyHeritage is done preparing your deep story. And so your next step would be click on the play button and watch it and enjoy it. Be amazed as I was, I hope. And if you're happy with the result, you have a few choices. You can share it. You have on Facebook and on Twitter, you can share that. You have a shareable link that you can send to your family and friends. And you can also download to your computer and then not be dependent on internet or anything else if you want to watch it again. The important thing is, if there's anything in the video that you're not happy with, you have the edit button and you just click on Edit Deep Story. Now you'll see that your story is divided into chapters. And each chapter has a text and an image. The images that Deepstory uses here are, of course, the images that you uploaded to the ancestor's profile. And if you have any photo that you have attached to any fact, you'll see here in the Deepstory. And of course, the story goes chronologically because it gives the timeline, the story of your ancestor from beginning to end. Anything you decide you want to change, you can do it very easily. All you have to do in the text, you just highlight it and you type in whatever you decide to change it to. So it's very easy. It's like you do on any document. You'll see that each chapter has 3 dots. And the first chapter has 2 options. You can listen to it, or if you decide that, actually, I think there's something missing between the first chapter and the second chapter, you can always add a chapter. Now, I highly advise you to listen to each and every chapter. Every time you make a change, listen to it. And that will save you a lot of time later once you've listened to the whole video and then decide you want to change something. And it just makes the whole process a lot longer. So if you listen to each and every chapter, you'll be able to change things as you go. The first chapter and the photo of the ancestor is the one that you used for the profile. And that is not set in stone. Let's say that you made that tree years ago and there's a specific photo that you even forgot that you used for your ancestor. And since then, you found many more photos that you like better than this one. You can easily change it. Just click on change photo and you change the photo of the ancestor. Now, the first photo that's on the first chapter is the photo that is going to be animated, and that's the photo that will accompany the whole video throughout from beginning to end. So make sure that you like the photo because that's the animated photo for the whole story. Going on to the next chapter, you have the addition of deleting it altogether if you decided that you don't like it. It doesn't go with what you thought it's going to be, so you can easily delete it and either add a different one or just let it go on from there. Same thing with the visual that goes with the chapter. Let's say you're okay with the text of the chapter, but you have a different photo that you think will go best with it. All you have to do is click on edit photo and you can either change it or you can remove it altogether. Now, a chapter that does not have an image that goes with it, you'll see the ancestor on full screen. It's not going to disrupt the flow of the video. It's just going to have the ancestor on full screen instead of having the ancestor in the circle and the image to go with it. So that's all you do. Once you made all the changes that you wanted, you click on save and create, and that's it. It's that simple. Honestly, it's that simple. Especially if you have a profile that has a lot of information on it, you have everything that you need. And you just click one button, either create a Deepstory, or once you changed it, you click on save and create, and there you have it. But it's not called artificial intelligence for nothing, because you can also make a tailor-made video. And that can be absolutely about anyone you choose. And I have to admit that for me, it was much more appealing than the automated version, because not only can you make it about anyone, but unlike the automated version, where it just follows the life events of your ancestor, here you can choose anyone, and you can choose any theme, and you can tell any story that you choose. Now, for the tailor-made version, you just need two things. Well, two big things, but just two. You need a story, and the story needs to be written in first person. Because remember, it's your ancestor telling his or her story. So it needs to be written in first person. And the second thing is photos and images that you choose for the story. So these are the two things that you need to start off the tailor-made option. And now, who is your storyteller? I'm sure you probably have somebody, like the first person you already thought about, the first person that came to mind that you're going to try this tool on. So once you have your character, once you have the ancestor, what is the story about? What is his story? And maybe a certain ancestor has a few stories that you can tell. And I want to share some ideas, and I have a request as well. If you will have any more ideas once we're done, and I do have a few more ideas in the handout, I would love it if you can share them with me as well, because I'm constantly searching for new ideas. And if you knew the ancestor personally, think about the way you're writing the story. You can make this, you can like have either sentences or phrases that they used that are more personal, and it can sound so much more like him. And like I said, it can be about anything. So I want to give you a few ideas. How about a toy story? Do you have a toy that's been in the family for years? Who was the first one to receive that toy? Let that ancestor tell about it. Maybe share why they wanted it so much. And what was it like to finally hold it in their hands? My kids received a wooden train that used to be their father's. Now, I know it's not that old, but once they heard the story of how that train traveled from England to South Africa to Israel, playing with that train was so much more special. Because I believe that stories make things or turn things special and more valuable. Same thing if you have a story about that has to do with music, a musical instrument. And again, my in-laws had a piano in their house. And when we used to come over with the kids, when they were small, we used to come over and visit, they used to bang on that piano. They didn't know how to play, nor were they very careful with it, until they heard the story of how that piano traveled on a ship from England to the port of Mozambique, and then was carried from the ship by 12 workers onto a special truck that took it to Bulawayo in Rhodesia, and then traveling on another ship all the way to Israel. Now, I can tell you they weren't better players, but they were so much more respectful and careful with that piano after hearing that story. Stories are super, super, super special. How about a love story? Now, who doesn't love a love story? And maybe you've discovered one in your research. For me, I was very emotional when I discovered the love story of my grandparents. Now, my grandpa was younger than my grandma. And since they lived in the same neighborhood, get this, she was invited to his bar mitzvah party. And she came with her parents and her boyfriend. Now, that boyfriend became her husband. Yeah, she married really young. And well, my teenage grandpa was in love with her. Fast forward after World War II, they both returned to the neighborhood. And grandma lost her husband. And grandpa, who was a soldier during the war, was discharged from the army because he lost a leg. And when they met, my grandpa finally found the courage and confessed his love to her and asked her to marry him. Now, she didn't agree that quickly, but eventually she could not resist his charm, and thank God for that. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here telling you all about it. Heroes. I know we all have heroes in our families, and it can be two kinds of heroes. I mean, you can definitely use Veterans Day and choose to tell a story of a hero that did something big and received a Medal of Honor for it. But it can also be an opportunity to teach the younger generation that a hero is hidden in each and every one of us. And tell a story of an ancestor that did something he might not receive a medal for, but ultimately changed or shaped someone else's life by a selfless act. That is always so inspiring. Next, it can be about a recipe. This subject I absolutely love, and I'm sure you have a recipe that's been in the family for years, from generation to generation. And actually, right now, I'm working with my son on a video. We recently found my grandma's recipe notebook. It was hidden. It was just gone for years, and nobody knew where it was, and we just found it. And we're making a video of my grandmother giving instructions to her pickles. Now, guys, her pickles were the best in the world. And I feel like the taste of them is beginning to fade. So we decided to go all artistic and prepare the pickles and take the photos of the process while we do it, and then use those photos in the video while my grandmother is giving the instructions on how to do the pickles. Another idea, family tales and beliefs. Now, it can be stories or tales that were told over the years, maybe a story that was invented by one of your ancestors as a bedtime story or a song or, I don't know, a lullaby. But it can also be an ancestor listing all the superstitions in the family. And when I think of all the superstitions in my family, oh my God. Just for instance, don't open an umbrella in the house, it's bad luck. Don't whistle in the house, you'll be whistling your money away. Don't pass under a ladder, you'll stop growing. And the list goes on and on and on. The weirdest things. Now, this can be a really fun and funny video to gather all that. And think about the research that you'll have to do and the interviews you'll have to go throughout the people in the family to gather those. Just for that, it's worth it. Of course, immigration. how your family traveled, how your ancestors traveled on the way to the United States. What was the place? Where did they arrive to? And did they settle there? Did they move? Why they moved? Where to? And this is a perfect opportunity to combine what you discovered in your research and weave it into the story to make it richer and more colorful. Now, it can also be a story about a family business if you have one. Who started the business? Why? Why that business specifically? What did it take to start the business? Was it supported by the family? Did the business have an impact on the community? Again, a lot of opportunities for research, a lot of opportunities to interacting with other people in the family and learning what they know about the family business, and then weaving it all in to the video. It can be family tradition. Now, it can be something big, like on holidays and events, but it can also be about daily things that was special to your family. A yearly barbecue. Maybe you had a certain secret greeting on Sunday on your way to church. I have a friend, and their family tradition is that the extended family is gathering once a month, and they celebrate the birthday of all the people of that month. But all the gifts have to be handmade and not bought. Now, I thought that was pretty special, and I really loved that idea. Triumphs. And, I do encourage you to think outside the box with this tool. Now, talking about triumphs, I was thinking about a family member that was struggling and how I could make a video of an ancestor sharing a hard time that they went through and how they came victorious on the other side, and putting some words of encouragement. And that can be so touching and powerful. And by the way, if you're familiar with Amy Johnson's challenge, 52 Ancestors, 52 weeks, I think there are so many topics on the weekly topics that would be great ideas for some amazing and inspiring videos. And she publishes she has the topics for the whole year. You can go over that and see which ancestor pops out and make the video about them. So once we did that, then next thing we need to choose the images. What images go with the story? So let's, for example, say that we want to make a story about your great aunt's love story. So of course, you need the image of the person that is telling the story, your great aunt. Other images you can choose are, maybe you want to start with her talking about what happened when she was younger, her and her husband. Maybe you have images of them as a couple while they were dating, engagement photos, wedding, honeymoon. Do you know who was the matchmaker? Maybe you can find out. And maybe that person can be in the story as well. And I know that these are the obvious ones, but if you have something about the story that requires different photos, then by all means, maybe you're approaching the whole thing from a different angle. Just feel free and have a free hand of the photos that you choose to go with the story that you have. My biggest tip for writing the story is make a storyboard. Now, I've got to give credit to Rhonda Lauritsen, because I know she didn't invent the storyboard, but it was during one of her storytelling courses that I realized the full potential of a storyboard. Once you make a storyboard, it allows you to see the sequence of the story, to visualize it, and then you can make changes before you even refer to the MyHeritage site to use the Deepstory tool. So you take your story, you divide it into chapters. And I encourage you to number those chapters. And you'll see in a minute why numbering makes a difference and how it makes your life easier. So write your story, divide it into your chapters, and maybe even start with the board, with a storyboard, and write your story inside the storyboard. So you can do it both ways. Either have the whole thing write it down on a piece of paper on your computer, and then look at it and divide it into chapters. Or maybe you'll find it easier to have the storyboard in front of you and thinking about the story and filling in the different chapters, whichever way works best for you. And you'll see that investing in a storyboard makes it so much easier for you later on in the process. So once your story is ready, now you have to search for the images that fit your story. Now, remember the family celebration that prompted this whole journey for me? Well, that's what I did. I wrote my grandparents' story, the story of how they brought our family to Israel. And then I just dove into the boxes of the photos, which that's saying I dove into them. It's not really correct because most of them are already digitized and are on my computer. But I just started looking at the photos, and every photo I found, I wasn't thinking what goes where. I was just thinking about the whole story and looking at the photos and choosing the ones I think might fit. So my next tip to you is open a folder on your computer. Add to that folder any image, any photo you think might fit. Now, if you have like 2 or 3 photos that you like for a specific chapter, just put them all in. Put all 3 in. And I think that what I want you to imagine here is sort of like a flow of mind. You think about a story, what comes up? You're looking at the photos, what you think might fit in, just pop it into the folder. It can be people, it can be places, it can be documents. And if you have a chapter where it's not specific things, but your ancestor talks about an idea, then you can search for an image on one of the free photo sites and pick an image that is abstract, but it fits what is in that chapter specifically. So let your mind go, and you know how people say, just go with the flow of your mind. The next step is key. Now you have your story and you have your folder with your images. This is the point where you read the chapter and then you look at the photos, and out of those, you choose the one that fits your story, that fits that chapter. You look at the chapter, you look at the photos. And once you're happy with the photo, you number the photo with the number of the chapter. That'll make it easier for you later on. So you go to Deepstory. This is the time. You go to Deepstory and you scroll all the way down to upload a photo to begin. Once you do that, you upload the photo of the ancestor. MyHeritage immediately goes to work and enhancing your photo to make it look the best way possible. You choose male or female, and you click next. Next thing I suggest, now that you have the image of your ancestor, choose the voice that goes with it. And like I said, you have so many different choices and accents, British and New Zealand and Ireland and Australia. So you can choose the voice best suits your ancestor. Once you chose that one, listen to it, make sure it fits. And then you can adjust the speed. You can make it maybe a faster one for a younger voice, but then a slower one for an older voice. You make the choice and you save what you choose. Next thing is the chapters. You have the first chapter with the photo of your ancestor. Listen to it, because now what you do is you look at your story and you simply copy your first chapter into the first chapter. Listen to it. If you're happy, click on Add Chapter. Disregard all the options that you have here and just go straight to free text. And you just keep on going. You copy the second chapter, and then you go to images and you upload the image that is numbered number 2. That's why I said numbering is important, because it will make your life easier. Because now you have chapter 2, you just search for image number 2, and there you have it. You don't have to think about, okay, which image did I think goes best? You just have it. Everything is ready. You just click, click, click. Chapter, you copy the chapter, and then you have the image to go with it. Once you chose the image, you will see it in a small version on chapter number 2, and you go on from that. Listen to it. Like I said, listen to every chapter. It'll save you heaps of time later. And you add another chapter, and you go on until the end of the story. Once you're happy with it, you click on Create Deepstory. And voila, there you have it. It's working for you. And of course, you can listen to it, you watch it, and you can share it. Same thing that you had with the automated version. Now, when you go to Deep Stories, you'll have the deep stories that you already made waiting there for you, and you can share them, download, edit, or delete. But remember that here you're deleting the whole story itself. So just be aware of that. One small thing, if you want to make a story in a different language, how would you know where to click? Well, MyHeritage, when you look at the top, it's the exact same thing. Everything is exactly the same place. So if you have a screenshot of your English screen, then all the rest is just the same. Home, the same place, family tree, etc. And what if the language that you want to use is written from right to left? Same thing. Start with the MyHeritage logo and just reverse. Homepage, family tree, etc. And if you don't know which language to choose, and if you want to choose a different language, then you just hover over it and it tells you exactly what language it is. Now, I wanted to surprise my dad, and I wanted to make a video of his grandfather, and I wanted to make it in Russian. So I used Google Translate. I wrote the English version, and I asked the Google Translate to translate it. And the thing is that you have this speaker, and because I speak Russian, I could hear to see if it's okay or not. And then I asked my mom to. There were a few things that didn't sound quite right. And if you have a native speaker that can help you with that, that's good. But I can tell you that my mom said that she only needed to correct very, very few things. So it worked pretty well from English to Russian. And so, remember our celebration? Our celebration started with the video that I prepared of my grandparents' story. And I'm only sharing a short version because it was much longer at the celebration. What I can tell you is that the room was silent, and silent, you could hear a pin drop. And the eyes of 3 generations were on the big screen TV in the middle of the living room.
Hello, I'm Haya Glass. I'm your grandmother and great-grandmother. These are my parents. For you, the youngest ones, these are your 2 times greats. Dad, Reuben Glass, was born in 1893. Mom, Zivia Grubin, born in 1897. Can you imagine? Over 130 years. We were a big family. Unfortunately, only 3 of us left after World War II.
My name is Itzhak Sperling. My nickname was Idel. I'm your grandfather and for some great-grandfather. I was born in Riga, Latvia, like many generations before me. Unlike Grandma, I was an only child. Here I'm with my parents, Sarah and Hirsch Sperling. Please don't ask me about this haircut, I have no idea what they were thinking. Now this is better. No smiling, having our picture taken was a serious business. You can't see it, but I'm cracking up inside. This is my grandfather, Schmerl Sperling. Like other photos, this was restored with the MyHeritage tools, and still, he looks a bit scary. He was born in 1852. For you, over 170 years ago. But his looks did not come in his way to marry 3 times. I guess that after all, there was something special about him. Welcome to my bar mitzvah party. Recognize the beauty on the left? That's Grandma. She was a guest with her future husband. I was in love with her, but I kept it secret.
Grandpa and me met again after the war. I was already a mother to Israel, my son from my first husband who was killed during the war. With Grandpa, we had your mothers, or grandmothers for some of you. Can you believe it? These are your grandmothers. We could not ask for more wonderful daughters.
Lev, our son-in-law, was a soldier in the Red Army, and as such had to pledge allegiance to Russia.
Because of that pledge, our request to leave was denied. So Lev wrote a letter to Andrei Grechko, the Minister of Defense.
He stated that he goes back on the oath he pledged. Immediately he received a notice threatening him with 15 years in prison, but he was not deterred.
2 months later we were approved to leave Latvia. We were ordered to vanish within 2 months.
We finally arrived in Israel in 1972, and here you are celebrating our family's 50th year in Israel.
We are so proud of you for remembering and keeping us alive in your hearts. You are fulfilling our lifelong dream and keeping our legacy alive.
Enjoy life, make the best of it, and cherish your family. As long as we are in your hearts, we live on.
Well, I can tell you that what I heard after this was, wow, it's the closest I felt to my great-grandparents. And that was my cousin's son. He's 14 years old. I felt like I finally made it. I made the connection to the younger generation. Yeah, Deepstory is exciting for all ages, but for the younger generation, it uses a platform that they are familiar with, AI technology. Some say that a picture is worth 1,000 words. Well, I promise you that with Deepstory, your family will be left with no words. Deepstory is artificial intelligence at your fingertips. And MyHeritage makes it so simple for you, and you can do it. And with this tool, your only limit is your imagination. All I wish you is good luck, and most of all, please enjoy the fun process of preparing these videos. And I know that for genealogists, I found so many opportunities here to dig deeper and learn more about my ancestors so I can make the stories about them a lot richer and more colorful. So please enjoy it. And thank you for letting me share this with you.
And thank you, Jana. That was truly beautiful. Thank you for sharing that with us, and so many wonderful ideas. Jana, many of my ancestors were from Denmark, but I never thought to use like the combination of Google Translate and Deepstory to actually see my ancestors speak in their native language. Pretty excited about that, and the various ideas that you gave. Just this last Sunday, we ate my great-grandmother's strawberry jello for dinner, and I've got a great photo of her, and now I'm thinking about having her teach us how to make that jello using Deepstory. So, and I never had thought of doing things like that until right now. So thank you so much, and thank you everyone for sharing your kind thoughts. It's really neat to read your words of thanks, and I'll be sure to share this with Jana, and make sure that you also fill out the survey that shows up on your screen after you leave the webinar. We really appreciate you sharing your thoughts there. Well, let's do this, and then we'll get to your questions. Our next.
By the way, Jeff.
Yeah, go ahead.
In the handout, if anyone wants to see the video that I prepared in Russian and see how how it came out, I can tell you that my father was, he could not stop the tears because he never met his grandfather. And he was so emotional watching that video. And it felt like really, really special to have the opportunity, in a way, to introduce him to his grandfather and to let them have their moment. So that was very special, and it's in the handout if anybody is curious to see how it came out.
Oh, good. So I've just, once again, I put the link to the handout in everybody's chat area. And when you pull it up, it's a PDF file, and it looks like this, and it's 31 pages, but it's a complete illustrated step-by-step guide to what we learned here today. So thank you so much. This will really be a wonderful help as we navigate this. All right, so our next live MyHeritage webinar series webinar is coming up this Thursday, and it's part of the 4th annual 24-hour genealogy webinar marathon, and Michelle Leonard will actually kick off that marathon with the class Solving Unknown Parentage Mysteries with MyHeritage DNA. So I hope that you sign up to attend that, and you can do that right here at familytreewebinars.com/24. Now, also on this same link right here, and I've put this in your chat as well, this is where you can go back and browse the various classes that the MyHeritage webinar series has produced. And so there's many of them talking about the various imaging tools that Jana taught us today. So be sure to check that out. Okay, so if you're here, then you're eligible to be selected for one of our 2 door prizes. And our first door prize is a 1-year MyHeritage Complete plan. So that gives you access to everything with the site building and all of the data. So there's more than 19 billion historical records now. I had to make sure to update that today, as those records are continuously added to. So let's go and find our winner. It looks like Alvin Turner is our winner for the complete plan. Congrats to you, Alvin. Now we'll go to a MyHeritage DNA test kit, and this will go out to Helen. I'm looking for the first letter of your last name. Yeah, it's a C. Helen Culliford. So congrats to you. Just watch for an email from me. And now we'll get to some of your questions. So, Jana, are you ready for a couple of questions?
Sure.
Okay, thanks.
Fire ahead.
Great. So Rita is asking about a time limit for the length of the story. Is there a time limit?
As long as you have your account, you have. What do you mean about time limit? Like how long it can be?
Yes, yeah. Can it be a maximum of 5 minutes or 10 minutes, or is it unlimited? Do you know that?
I know I've made a 15-minute video already.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And it worked fine with that. I couldn't say if there's a time limit. I mean, I don't know if there's a time limit. You know what? I don't think I've actually. Every time I made a video and I made it what I wanted to be, it worked. So the longest I've made so far was 15 minutes.
Okay.
It was like a small feature.
You know
so
that's what
I haven't tried making a longer one. So I don't know, and I don't think I saw a written limit on the Deepstory on the website.
Okay. And this is one of the reasons that I think this webinar today is so powerful. Jana is a real. She's a person just like you and I, who has explored the Deepstory tool and is teaching us the results of what she has learned. And so this is just really neat. Thank you. Many people asked about how were you able to switch narrators in that video?
Okay, I wanted to talk about that. Like I said, with my video, it was, we went all in. So I went beyond the storytelling, the tool on MyHeritage itself. What I did was I made 2 videos, one of my grandfather and one of my grandmother. And then I used an editing software to switch between them. Okay. That's how I was able to add music, because I really wanted it to be very dramatic. So I just made 2 videos and combined those.
Okay. Oh, a really neat tip. Thanks for sharing that. Let's see. Doris is wondering, do we need to have a paid MyHeritage account to use this feature? Or do you know about that?
No. As far as I know, you can do the Deepstory on a free account.
Okay. Let's go to Anne, who asks, when you share the story, so you showed a few different share buttons, does the person that you share it with, do they need to be a MyHeritage customer to be able to see the video?
No, they just click the link and they watch it. The whole idea is that you can share it with anyone. Like I showed that you share it on Facebook, and people on Facebook, you don't know who has a MyHeritage account or not, and that's a link that you can just share with anyone.
Perfect. Thank you. So, Jana, lots of people were interested in the storyboard that you created, and they're curious. How did you make it? Did you use a certain kind of software to do it, or was that just a PowerPoint tool that you were using?
I'm all for the simplest possible, the simple way. So yes, it was a PowerPoint. I just created one square where I left, I left the space for a small photo, so I will know exactly which photo I want to go with that chapter, and I just copy pasted that square throughout, and I started with like 5 or 6, And then I figured, okay, I think I wanted my story to go longer. And then I just kept copying it. I'm all for simplicity. I don't like very complicated program, softwares. And so, and to be honest, the first time I did it, it was just old school. I had a huge blank page in front of me and I drew the squares myself. And instead of, I couldn't put the photo on that page, but what I did is I wrote to myself, I described the photo to myself. So that was the first time I tried it. It was very old school.
Okay.
Piece of paper and a pen and a few colored pens that I had with me. And that's how I did it. And then I got more sophisticated and I got onto PowerPoint.
Mm-hmm.
But you can definitely start old school. Not a problem.
Well, that's a great idea. I'm going to read to you a comment from Teresa, and this kind of sums up many of the other comments that have come in. She says, this webinar is very encouraging. I plan to try it. Thanks for an excellent webinar. That's what you've brought us here. You've brought us encouragement and hope and some really neat ideas on what we can do. Before we've gone through all of the questions here except for this one, and a few people asked, are there any tips for adjusting the speech so that they sound more natural? I saw that you can adjust the speed of their voice, and there's lots of different dialects, but any other thoughts on adjusting their speech?
Yeah, well, unfortunately, not so far, but
okay.
Seeing how MyHeritage keeps improving and keeps bringing us new things, I'm counting on them making the adjustments. But I can tell you that I've tried it both on male and female ancestors, and I've also tried it on my ex-husband's grandfather, who was South African, and he had an aunt who is Irish. And I've tried it in so many different dialects as well. And it worked. It worked really well. I played with the speed. And because in English there are so many choices, I was able to find one that goes well with the ancestor that I chose. And another tip that I can give you is, once you see the part where you have the first chapter where you can see the ancestor and the different choices that you have in the voices, make sure that the voice fits the age of your ancestor, the photo that you chose.
Oh, good tip.
And then you can either choose another voice, or just, if you like that voice, it sounds good to you, and you have more than one photo for that ancestor, search for a photo with that the age goes well with the sound of the voice.
Yeah, good tip. Interesting. I wonder if, like, no, I was just thinking out loud, Jana, if you could use multiple, well, can you do this? Like at the beginning of the video, could you if he's speaking as a younger man, you can use a younger man's voice, and then in the later part of the video, when he's talking about the later part of his life, could you use a different voice?
No, not really, because think about it. Once you upload the photo of the ancestor that is telling the story, it doesn't change.
Oh, it's the same photo throughout.
That photo is the one that is in the circle, and that will go on throughout the video. So it's the same photo that goes with each and every chapter.
Okay.
But we can always send a request to MyHeritage and ask to change things.
Well, or I suppose we could do as you did and use a separate editor afterwards to combine two different stories, one with the young person and one with the old. Yeah. You've got
There's so many, like I said, Your only limit is your imagination.
Right.
I'm going wild with this. Like, really.
Deep story gone wild. Well, thanks, Jana. It's been really enjoyable. Before we say goodbye, any final thoughts?
Enjoy. I think that's my biggest farewell to you, because if you do it just because you feel you have to, it'll come out. It'll be sensed in the way the story is written, and it'll be, when you enjoy it, the love that you have for the ancestor and for the story comes through your words, and those are the words that your ancestor will be saying. So just enjoy it and take it as an opportunity to dig deeper and learn more about your family. And then that's the way to leave it as a legacy for next generations.
Yeah, very well said. And we can hear the enjoyment in your voice as well. Okay, well, let's do this again sometime. Jana, you're welcome here anytime. Our audience really enjoyed you. Thanks to you, audience, wherever and whenever you are around the world, for sharing part of your day with us. And remember, life is short. Do genealogy first. Bye, everyone. Bye, Jana.
Bye.